welcome everyone to today's webinar, CED Office Hour Live, our weekly show where we discuss all things community and economic development. And that includes everything with topics from the hard side of community economic development, so infrastructure, working on roads and so forth, buildings, to the kind of that soft side, that human side, things like workforce development, to everything in between, which often is things like business development, organizational development. And we have the privilege of having with us here today the Family Consumer Sciences team. They'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But as we enter into 2023, we just wanted to set the table for you as you're listening in or as you're watching this episode later, just to think about, okay, maybe you want to set some goals or you want to make some changes in 2023. And we just wanted to get you to a place where you can thrive. And that's the name of our series, Get Your Thrive On. So we've got a series, we've already talked about mental health, kind of that social emotional component of life last week. This week, we're coming to you with some information about financial fitness. And then next week, we'll talk about physical fitness. So let's get your thrive on is the series we're in. And with us here today, we have Juliana Irwin, James Keys, Renita Porter, and we're just so pleased and honored to have you here joining with us. And so we're going to kick it off. I'll kick it off with a few questions. If you're watching in, please make sure that if you have questions as we go along, feel free to jump in, ask questions. You can drop those in the chat box, and we'll make sure to pick those up. But to start us off, I'd love it if we could go around the room and you could introduce yourselves. Oh, before I do that, I almost forgot. I am one person on a team, the Community Economic Development or CED team, but we are a team, and also with us, Amber Twitty and Ambrose Moses, and the three of us comprise the CED unit at Central State University Extension. All right, well, I thought maybe I'm just looking at my screen here, and if we could work around, maybe James and Renita, then Juliana. If you could introduce yourselves, and maybe James, you could, since you're starting us off, you could also say something about FCS, or Family Consumer Sciences, and kind of what you do and how you serve the people of Ohio.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Sure can.
Awesome. Hey, so yeah, my name is James Keys, and I am the FCS educator, Family Consumer Sciences. So I cover the Southern Ohio region. So there's 88 counties within Ohio. So I cover the 10 most southern counties for FCS. So with FCS, we are educators that go out into the community and we connect with agencies, with individuals, with like YMCAs or churches, and just try to understand what the needs are from a health and wellness, lifestyle, financial literacy standpoint, so that we can then bring resources to the community so that we can help them live healthier, better, more educated lives. So I work a lot with our seniors and then some of our youth as well. It's just trying to develop healthy habits, good habits from the beginning. And then, as they age and get older, also connect them with healthier lifestyles, and we work a lot with our ag team, our CED team, our 4-H team, so that we can just bring that holistic approach to the communities that we serve, because, we go in with one program, but that one program may touch all 4 areas. I've been with Central State for about almost 2 years now, coming from a corporate sales and marketing background. And due to the COVID crunch or hit or whatever, it allowed me to pivot and then come into an area that I'm really passionate about, and that is helping people just live healthier, better lives. So that's me, James Keys. Thank you.
Hey everybody, my name is Renita Porter, FCS educator of the Southwest region of Ohio, primarily focused in Columbus. And so James did a really good job of explaining everything that we do for the community. But for me personally, I think one of the reasons why I wanted to be an extension is because of the ability for me to serve. I think that it is extremely important to serve our community. My prior experience, I was a teacher, so I served kids, but I wanted to do more, and I thought I could do more within the community. So that's why I came to CSU Extension. So one of my focuses has primarily been diabetes education, and so I believe for 2023, we're going to do more branching out and do a lot more financial literacy and nutrition and wellness within the Southwest region. I don't have anything else to add. James said everything, so I'll pass the baton on to Juliana.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Juliana Wickline. I am an FCS educator. I'm based out of Cedarville, Ohio, but I cover the Southwest region as well as Renita. A lot of my main focus is health and wellness, so like diabetes education like Renita. We do an Eat Smart, Move More program, anything like that. What really inspired me to join Central State, I actually went to Ohio State University for college, and I studied extension education, where I actually wanted to be a 4-H extension educator. I grew up in 4-H. I loved working with kids in 4-H, and so that's what I really truly wanted to be, as a 4-H extension educator. I graduated in May of 2020, so during the pandemic, which I did not, it was very hard to find a job over the pandemic, because you can't go out and interview. You couldn't do pretty much anything in 2020. So trying to find a job over Zooms and trying to meet people over Zooms while doing an internship at the same time was very difficult. So when I found CSU Extension, they had a lot of job openings at the time when I was applying. And so found Central State. I actually applied for this job, a 4-H job, and one other extension job through here. So applied for 3 of them, and was able to interview for this family and consumer science position, got the position, and I have loved it ever since. I like going out into the community and working and serving, like Renita said, and so it's been an amazing job. So switching job courses was kind of fun, and so I've learned a lot. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's great. And as our audience can tell, we just have a wealth of expertise and diverse interest areas, and so forth. Before we move on, people have heard us talk about FCS, or Family Consumer Sciences, and working with everything from diabetes to work with youth, and the elderly. But I'm wondering if there's a way, if somebody's listening in, is there a way they can tap into the FCS programs, or how could people learn more about that? Before we move on, just how could people connect with you? And I will note, thank you, Amber. We do have the CED team. We have our contact information in the message, the chat area. So do please feel free to reach out. But yeah, FCS, how could people find out more about how to get involved, how to learn and grow and become the healthier, stronger, better version of themselves?
Yes, so based off of where they're located, I mean, they can always reach out to any one of us via email. I'm at jkeys@centralstate.edu. If there's interest in any of the programs, regardless if it's my area or not, I mean, I can get you to the right person. And that'll probably be the best way. You can always go to our Central State website. I just don't know if, going there it'd be easier to get a hold of somebody and then have us, do some needs assessing and then be able to get back to them as well. Gianna, Renita, any other ideas?
No, I think you covered it. I think if Amber, if you want to put all of our email addresses in the chat, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to reach out.
I'm already on it.
Thank you. And any one of us will be able to facilitate and or help you with whatever it is you need from the Family and Consumer Science Department. And you can also put Seth's name in there as the regional. Yep. Contact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, perfect. you can always guarantee the incomparable Amber will be on it. So
Always.
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 in the meantime, just to set a little bit of context too, as we move into this conversation, but just, I said, also put in the chat that, just one version of what's called a wellness wheel, right? There's a link in there now. And the idea is that our lives really work like a wheel, right? So multiple parts to our lives, the physical, the financial, occupational or career focus, intellectual or, lifelong learning is part of what it means to be human. All these things, all these different parts of life, it's all part of who we are. And what you tend to find is when you're going down the road, if a wheel is flat on one side, life's just not you're gonna struggle to keep that forward momentum. And so that's why I put together this series, is just to help us think about how to be strong in all components of our life, and that just makes things run more smoothly, and we can really get the most out of our life that way. So it's something to think about as thinking about the wellness wheel. Where am I at on these different components? Today, though, of course, we are focusing on financial fitness, being financially sound, financially fit. How do we get there? Okay, so with that, thank you again, everyone, for the introductions and giving us that overview. I'd like to go ahead and move into keep that sort of big picture going, and I'll just open it up. I mean, what should we be thinking about when we talk about financial fitness, or matters of finance and money management and all that? What should we be thinking about with this?
So I have a comment. So when I thought about that question, what came to my mind is our belief system and how we feel about money first. And, where does that come from? Because that ultimately decides what we do as adults. So I think we need to think about, what did we learn as kids from our parents, or is that something they talked about, or did our community talk about money? So, and then after that, it's like, how does that determine our relationship with money? And money is such an emotional word. It's emotional whether you have money, because if you have money, you're thinking about how can you get more of it, or what else can you get, if you're investing. And if you don't have money, then of course it's, how am I going to pay these bills? So either way, money is so emotional. So again, my first thought is, where does our belief system come from? Did our community talk about it? The community that I came from didn't really talk about it. Didn't talk about how to save. That's not a conversation that I heard my parents talk about, and it may have been something that they didn't hear their parents talk about either. So feel free, anybody want to comment on.
Yeah, so I I had that same experience, right? It was go to school, get a good job, but as far and pay your bills, right? So when I got in college, I paid my bills and then I got sick and I couldn't pay all them bills. And I didn't have that savings, right? So I had to learn the hard way how to get back, you know. And I was an accounting major. So I kind of
Oh,
learned more so in school, like, oh, I should have been doing it this way or that way, right? But in freshman year, first week of school, you get all kind of credit cards.
mm-hmm,
You didn't even ask for them. You
mm-hmm.
already approved it. Here you go. Now, you know, retail was my friend. Like, hey. so so it wasn't that I wasn't
No, it
trying to
wasn't.
pay my bills, but I found that I had a life-changing situation and I didn't have that plan B, a safety net. My savings wasn't enough to carry those expenses without me working my 2 to 3 part-time jobs, depending on the week, right? So those are things, I was told, but it wasn't reinforced, and definitely not the how, like how you navigate and how you prepare.
Yeah, I would align with that. And I think, me growing up in a single parent family, we just didn't have a lot. So for me, I didn't see mom. I just saw her going to work, and I just saw mom providing, and my dad was there, but it was just different. So when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about, credit cards or charge, because all I see was my parents or grandparents going to the store, getting the goods, and I didn't even know how they paid for it, right? I mean, I figured they had decent jobs. Like they worked at General Motors, but it was like, I didn't see them charging. And then, like Amber said, I got to college and it was like, you want the Sears card? I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do stereo anyway, so let me get this Sears card, and then I get a bill in the mail. I'm like, what's that? I gotta pay this bill. So it was like it really got to a point where I was like, call it in the hole for a while, because I really didn't know or understand the whole credit, call it the credit thing. And now I think kids are either more educated, or due to parents' experience and going through the tough times, that we're now able to help out our youth and give them direction and share with them the stories about the challenges that we had growing up, to now look at, hey, how are we spending money? How are we looking at money? Literally from an input, like how much money is coming in, to an output, what's going out for bills, and then seeing what's left. And if you don't have enough money at the end of the month, well, now you may have to get a second job, or maybe you might have to do something else, like Emma was saying, 2 or 3 jobs. So for me, it's just all about, it's the education of finances is what really is the big picture right now for me.
Yeah, how's it a tool? I see that Ambrose has a hand up, but I also saw, Juliana, you were saying an amen or what?
Oh yeah. It's just, yeah.
Okay.
Ambrose has a question though.
All right.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna make a comment, agreeing with the importance of the mindset aspect when dealing with this area of money, finances, and what have you. It also, this is one of those areas where FCS and CED sort of intersects, because we deal with money type situations as well, with business owners, which are individuals who have households, who have household finances and all, that they're now going to also have to apply in the business arena. So this mindset about money also, from the perspective of professionals, such as us in extension, how do we view money and financial matters, and how we view then the individuals that we're teaching or educating or working with. I think that's important. I'm sure I've heard, and you all have probably heard, some folks that we engage with, talk about saving. People got to learn how to save, but depending upon their circumstance, you can't save your way out of poverty. I mean, there's some other aspects of money and finances that have to be addressed. And so I think it is a very important starting point in terms of that mindset, that Renita is speaking of.
So I do wonder, Ambrose, why you're talking, and I see Renita, you got your hand up, so we'll get to that. But the two of you have been working, I think, talk about collaboration too. You've been working on a program called Just a Paycheck Away. I don't know how do you use that program to try to expand that on that, thinking and process it, and how do you help you, or what advice do you have to people that are going to come through that program?
Want me to answer? Ambrose?
You can go ahead, Renita.
Okay, so that program, Just a Paycheck Away, we are still in development with that program. But like when me and Ambrose would talk, I would say, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and it's all walks of life. And so we need to cover everything that could potentially lead someone just a paycheck away from whatever. It could be bankruptcies, it could be eviction. I mean, it could be a lot of things, and it doesn't have to be numerous things that get you to that point. Especially now with, could be with COVID, sickness. And so it's just so many things that can allow people to feel that way. And even with people with decent paying jobs who have the money to pay their bills, but it could be one emergency that puts them in a predicament because they don't have savings, or they have too much debt on their credit cards, or whatever situation. So that's what the program, but the intent that is trying to address everything that could potentially leave someone just a paycheck away. And Ambrose, you can add if you like.
And so yes, and when we say just a paycheck away, it's really not just a financial literacy kind of approach. I mean, it really does involve the variety of things that could come into play, such as Renita mentioned about a wide range of things. It could be dealing with the legal system. Maybe someone who has a criminal record that is limiting their access to employment opportunities. So there's these other aspects, and again, that becomes another intersection between our program areas, FCS and CED, because we have an expungement program that we work with in CED. So this notion of a short-term financial crisis or something that comes up immediately just by missing one paycheck, it can impact anyone from low and moderate income to upper income. Just one paycheck can really devastate a lot of households.
Thank you for that, and such important work. Amber has a hand up, and then after Amber, James, I want to come back to you.
Oh, wait, me.
Oh. Yeah.
Me. Okay. So no, I just wanted to go back and pick up where Ambrose left off regarding mindset, and just want to share something quickly. So I was the only child of a 2-parent household, and I remember my dad always having like 2 and 3 jobs. And so he was a mechanic. He worked for the city, and he done plumbing. He did all of these things, and I inherited that. It's been rare that I've had one job, to be quite honest. And so now I'm trying to shift my mindset, because I don't want to work 2 and 3 jobs. I want my money to make me money, so I don't have to work. I don't want to work hard like that, because it takes your time away. You don't get to do things. You don't get to be with your family because you're always working. So I just wanted to have that comment about, it's a shift, so you have to change your mindset and your belief about money.
So now that made me add 3 comments. So to piggyback on Renita, and that is so true, but that goes to that generation. What did our parents teach us? They said, get a job, work hard, retire from that one job, right? And it wasn't about residual income, right? It was about, you got to just work hard. So that is a shift just from their generation to our generation. And then the current generation, like my youngest daughter, that post-millennium, that's a whole new mindset. But I wanted to say too, I used to be a mortgage counselor, and during that time, and also a loan officer, and I worked mainly with veterans and first-time home buyers. So when I was doing the education side of it, the mortgage counseling, I would give small exercises so they could be aware of how they were spending their money. So even though they might not, they had a tight budget, because I might have been working with them for a year to get enough savings to buy a house, but I needed to change their mindset on what they thought about money. So I would have them track their expenses for 2 weeks, like a diary, everything. I don't care if it was a bag of chips. This is what I bought. And over again, they were spending money, and we would find areas that they could save. I didn't care if it was $5. If you save $5, it's going to take longer, but you're going to continue, and you're changing your behavior, right, on how you look at money. And made sure that as they did these budgets, they still put a little bit aside for themselves to have some type of entertainment. You got to have a break, because otherwise it's like you being on a diet. If you're on the diet so strict, you're going to binge, right? You're going to blow that diet. You be good for 2 months, and then voila, you just fell through the rabbit hole, right? So I think what is good about your program, I can't wait till you guys fully launch it, is that it'll help people not only learn about different things, but also have a behavior mindset total shift in what they think about money, how they use it, and how they plan for it. With me personally, you know, I I didn't want to just I have this entrepreneur mindset, right? Eric calls me the entrepreneur because I think like an entrepreneur within our extension, right? And so one of the things that I shifted with my kids, who are now between 21 and 35, is I challenged them to buy their first house before they're 30. Two of them have did that. And now they're looking at their insurance and things like that to save their money so they have a portfolio as they have started growing their families, right? The younger two, they still got time. One's got 3 years, but he's saving his money now. So he does have that mindset. And then the youngest one is 21, living her best life. But her things she's used to having, she'll have a house because she gonna need it, right? So those are things that even as parents and families think about themselves changing, they also have to make sure that they pass those learnings on to their kids. So there is a shift, and now you start to have family legacy and estates and trust and things like that.
Thank you, Amber. And that really pushes us forward. I'd like to invite James and then Juliana into the conversation, then open it back up. But I think that's where I'd like to go for a little bit more, is just to rest on what you just started us on, Amber, is to think about what are some of those specific things that, you know, you want to make sure people, a specific tool or strategy that you want to make sure it gets out there, that people are thinking about, that some of the people could use right now to get them on track in terms of being financially fit. And, you know, I just want to really appreciate the conversation so far too. It's helping me think differently. Like you know, what am I thinking about money? Where did that come from? And then from that, how do I project what's the life that I want? And how do I think of money as a tool to move me from where I am to where I want to go? Okay. So James, do you want to tell us, you know, what's your bag of tricks? What's the top things that people need to know?
So my number one, and let me just preface, it's just to live below your means. And because of the mindset that we talked about, if we really want to save money and get financially fit, it's kind of like Amber, you're talking about, you know, from a health and wellness standpoint. If you want to get fit, then you're going to have to change some things. So you got to change the way you've been doing things and some of your spending habits. So you have to know what you got coming in, and also B, know what you got going out. So if that's called a budget, if it's called just looking at your statements. I mean, I tell you, when I stopped having a checkbook, I stopped looking at my statements as often, and it's really thrown me off a little bit. So it's really taking the time to see what you got coming in, see what you got going out. And if you have excess coming in, now you can then cut it back a little bit further, but now you can see where your money's going. So if you don't know where it's going, then you're just going to keep throwing money all over the place. And at the end of the day, you're thinking, like Amber, you were saying, if it's $5 here, $5 there, then you can do that. I tell you what, when my wife and I bought our first house in 1995, and married in 1993, 95, we bought our first house. But the lady told us, she said, well, you're going to need $10,000 down payment. Well, we didn't have $10,000 down. So what we did was, my wife was a nurse. She worked extra hours. We cleaned houses. And I literally got a Dayton Daily News newspaper route, where every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting up, going there, getting the papers, delivering to the houses. And after 1 year, we saved $10,000. But know what? I found that me getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning was like, it wasn't that bad, right? Even though I was falling asleep at the movie theater when we was enjoying that free time. But I did it for 11 years, 11 years, until it just got to a point where Renita said, I needed a life, right? But I think it's really living below your means so that you can put that extra back, whether it's for an emergency fund or because just one paycheck away. Those things are going to happen. So for me, I would say living below your means.
So important. Great advice. Thank you, James. And hats off to you. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I would not survive.
Yeah.
Juliana?
Yeah, so that's kind of where I was gonna go with it a little bit. Money is kind of like a tool. I actually am gonna share a little bit of personal thing that my husband and I actually started doing this year. Because we've just had, I mean, I just had recently had a baby in August, so money was kind of tight after that. Um, so we started living on like half of our paychecks. So he works for Wright Pat Air Force Base, and obviously I work here with Central State. So what we do is we take half of our paycheck, take out some money and put it in a safety box, use some of that, and we've set our budget for the year with some of those things. So living on half of our means with that, we're living on half of our paycheck. So we set a budget each month for how much we can spend on groceries, how much we can spend on gas, how much we can spend on this. And so we're constantly just living on only half of our paycheck, and the other half is either in our savings account, in a safety box, and just anything where it's or invested in something to invest it as well, because if you invest it and you get that it in somewhere where it's invested, it keeps growing and growing and get it to grow more, or like in our safety box, if we have I don't know, I think we saved so far this January, we've saved up to like $400 already. Just putting 50 to $100 a week in there from our paycheck, or half of it. Just setting those goals and setting budgets for your year can really help you throughout the year, because by the end of the year, if we are saving about $50 a week times 52 weeks, I can't really do the math in my head right now, but whatever that comes out to, and that you can have all that cash saved up for an emergency. Like for example, my sister just had an emergency in December with her daughter. They had to go to Children's for a week, and so her and her husband have a good job, but they had to be off work for the last month. And so with this, so luckily they had enough saved up to help her with this whatever she had. And so when that emergency comes with that thing, they had a lot saved up to pay off those bills, but their medical bills were out through the roof. And so saving that money ahead of time, even though they didn't know this was going to happen, they had that all saved up. And so really just setting your goals and if you're living, like James said, living on below your means has really been helpful, and saving that half of your paycheck, and even with decision making, using that money, like some people every day go to Starbucks and spend $5 or more on a coffee. Like you could save that money, that $5, and save that for a week and save it and spend it somewhere else where, just like just somewhere else, just save that money and live on half your means basically. So
It's
yeah.
this is bringing to mind. I know there's different philosophy or different opinions
Yeah.
about Dave Ramsey and Financial Peace University, but he
Mm-hmm.
has a quote. He says, live differently than everybody else today, and you'll live differently than everybody else tomorrow or
Mm-hmm.
later in life. Meaning, make those commitments now, and it'll pay off, and you'll be able to live a different lifestyle than other people
Mm-hmm.
around you
Yes.
later.
Mm-hmm.
So, live below the means, and then, kind of build that savings, maybe is the first step. And then once you've got savings, then, what we do with, how do we think about the investing, what we've got extra with. I'm curious what tools around that as well. But Amber, you have your hand up?
Yeah, well, I was gonna let you finish. Are they all finished? Did Jody have anything she wanted to add? I was just making sure. So there's
Oh,
the
did you
okay.
say Jody had anything?
Yes,
Well,
Jody.
I appreciate everybody's comments. I think the biggest thing, I don't think a lot of young people or a lot of folks in general realize how much your credit score affects so many opportunities, and the education on that and what affects your credit score as a whole educational curve. That I know so many young kids, if people are on food stamps or whatever, and mom or dad is struggling to pay the bills. I've seen cases where when the child turns 18, they put the electrical bill in their name so they can get electric, and then they can't pay it. And then that child's credit is ruined for several years. I used to work for a community services agency, and just because people were trying to survive. And I mean, there's more programs and stuff out there, but it's tough. But understanding how credit scores work and is something I just I wish interest rates would go back down to 3 or 4%. Never seen them that low in my lifetime. And there's a lot of opportunity there for people who could buy a home at that time. So anyway, I've got a lot of life experiences too. We don't have enough time for those, but I think this is great. So life isn't perfect for all of us. And James, boy, I'm impressed. Up at 3 a.m.
I'm a hustler,
That is great.
baby. I'm sorry, I said that before.
And he still gets up before the Army. So go ahead, Renita. You got to turn your sound back on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm unmuted. No, just a quick comment. One thing that we really haven't talked about is that so now with inflation, right? So on top of everything, you know, you're struggling already. Now we have inflation. But I was doing some research, and now higher wage earners are struggling to pay their bills, get groceries, and you know, so just because it's like just because you have the money doesn't mean you want to pay what $5 for eggs, right? So it's like, what do you if you're already barely meeting your obligations, and let's say you try to live below your means, and now you have inflation, so now you're getting less. Then what do you do? I mean, I don't have an answer. I'm just saying that is a situation that you have in people's households. So if you're barely meeting your obligations, now you got an inflation, how could you even change your mindset to even think about wealth or even having money?
Well, a lot of times you don't, because you go into that survival mode, right? You start robbing Peter to pay Paul. And then if your credit gets behind, now you're paying more money with less income, right? And so it's real. A current example is just those who were getting that extra stimulus check that is just getting cut off in Ohio. Other states already cut it off. So, you know, a family that might have been getting an extra $200 or so, now that's getting cut. But the inflation, as you say, has gone up. So now they're even worse off. And then if you're getting any kind of government assistance, you can't just save your way out of poverty. So there are a lot of different things, because if you have so much in savings, then they're going to say, oh, you have assets, and then they reduce your benefits. So, and there's no transition period. It's not, okay, your benefits, now that you've changed, you got 2 months grace period, then you get cut off. No, you get cut off right that week. So those are things you have to consider in creative ways. I know when I was in college, when I was saving money and I didn't want to have too many assets, I had a savings account because they didn't count that. So I knew to leave that money in savings so that I could still have it. Otherwise, they were going to say I had to pay more tuition. So, you know, it's hard. You almost have to have that second job or some type of residual income. I think that's why entrepreneurship has increased even more, because you can have more money cash flow, but if you do it right, you can write off so you still tax less, right? So it's a way to have more money on your cash flow and your day-to-day living without making your quality of life go down or opportunities to go down. So I think that's one of the things that is a benefit of being an entrepreneur. And I look forward to some of my coworkers. I'm not saying no names. I'm looking at this box
the whole
on the screen.
Look at the whole screen.
I look forward to you all doing the unique things that you do.
Yeah, what are some examples of side hustles? I mean, that they say that's that's what they're talking about, is like it's exploding right now, right? It's there are people doing side hustles, right? Yeah, side gigs.
But now it's almost just sheer necessity, not
Right.
because it's a hobby and I like it. And I say, oh, let's make it a business. It's sheer necessity to survive.
So they
So
have to
a
use
couple-
Renita's father's approach.
Mhm.
You got to have those multiple jobs, but
No.
but they can do it where it's residual as well. There's a lot more opportunity utilizing technology, and this is one thing. Again, as we do this CED Office Hour Live, we like to inform the public also about just extension in general. So another aspect to sort of put on the table here is the fact that Renita is also the first FCS educator with Central State as well, and we were both started. We both started back in 2017, and we did have conversations talking about our two different program areas, and there was a lot in terms of side hustles or businesses, different ways you want to describe it, that can help bring additional income into a household. And we talked about the fact that technology, that there is so many different opportunities that folks can do some things online to sort of passively generate additional revenue for their home, but they have to know and understand those platforms and the different ways to monetize some of that content that can be created and put out there.
And it's growing so much with coming out of the critical part of COVID, because COVID is not really going away. It's going to be like the flu, right? But when you look at it, even the IRS is now saying all of these online money transfer platforms, like Cash App, PayPal, there are several of them where they were doing, transactions, right? The business transactions. And IRS said, ooh, that's a lot of transactions, right? We need to tighten up. We need to get some tax dollars out of that. So that's just a sign that side hustle kind of mindset and having a second business residual income is really on a major growth spurt when the government starts saying, hey, we need to try to regulate this some more. So just wanted to put that out there.
Yep, and I was going to add in. Go ahead, Ambrose.
Oh, well, I was just going to say just real quick, one basic point to know in terms of the U.S. Tax code. Just one of the basic principles is that U.S. citizens are taxed on their worldwide income. So that's why that would come up to their attention. So anything you generate anywhere around the world, if you're a U.S. citizen, it would be subject to taxation. So I'm done. That's education for a moment.
Yeah,
And then
I was
also
just going to add real quick. So I know that, talking from an FCS standpoint, and Amber, you and I have been talking about this, really just looking at from the standpoint of, people now can literally grow vegetables in their yard and then bring them to the front of their house and sell them, or go to a farmer's market and sell them. So right there, you don't necessarily have to be a farmer, right? And I don't want to get into that's a whole nother conversation, right? But I do believe that there's laws now, or there are opportunities now where people can literally, like a yard sale, but almost as like a produce sale that you can just grow it in your yard. So there's a lot of opportunity within what we do, but it all goes back to the mindset. Does somebody want to go through that process and learn how to do that, and then become an educated as to the proper way to, put the seeds in and grow the seeds and water the seeds and spend that time to produce the harvest from them.
And the good thing about that with the USDA rules, their definition of a farmer is anyone who can sell $1,000 worth of produce in a year. So basically, you selling them roughly $85-$90 a month, and you can be considered a farmer, and you might only have a small plot. So it is beneficial, and it has an immediate effect on your family, right? Because now you're reducing your grocery bill. So you're adjusting some of the things that you needed to buy monetarily out of your budget, because you're able to replace that by growing it yourself. So that's just another strategy. And the laws or regulations in cities are making it a little bit more feasible to and easier to enter that market in the city. So you don't need 60 acres to be a farmer. You can do it on a half an acre. You can do it in your basement if you got aquaponics. So technology has made that another feasible source of residual income, but also has some other value adds directly impacting your family.
So yeah, this is great. So you know, garden, even if just gardening for yourself, there's some studies say you save about $400 on grocery bills if you have your garden. But if you want to sell, so that's just one example of many we could share of people finding other avenues, create some income on the side apart from their main job. So yeah, good tools, good strategies. Anything else on that topic before I move on? I've got one more line of questioning. We've already addressed some of this, but Renita.
Yeah, so just real quick, one of my strategies, and I'm just implemented it this month, is I'm gonna save for what I love. And so I need to be a better saver. So I went on TikTok and try to figure out, okay, what's the funnest way that's gonna get me to save? Because I'm not just gonna put the money away. That's just not my personality. So I'm gonna save for what I love. And so I'm gonna do the envelope saving method. Yeah. I'm gonna do the envelope. But then it's tricky because we only get paid once a month. And so I'm like, I'm not gonna put $100 on I'm gonna have to draw 4 envelopes, right? So I'm gonna do like maybe 20, 25, 50, 75, something like that. Because there's a vacation that I want to go on in July. And so that I'm gonna save for what I love because I know I want to go. I know I'm going, but I want to have spending money. So I'm gonna see if I can do it.
You will, because you don't want to come back and be in debt from the trip and be stressed all over again.
Right.
So actually that is good. I won't go out of town without enough money, and I map out how many excursions I'm going to do, things like that. I budget and I need this much money, and I put a little bit aside every month, and that's how I do it. So when I come back, I'm not in debt.
Right. Hey, one thing she talked about the envelope, right? So one thing that I've been doing, and I always make it to like week 25 or 30. So I really want to get past, but literally week 1 of the year, you put $1 in a box or something. Week 2, you put $2. Week 3, you put $3. So I've gotten to like week 25, but then it was like $25 this week, $26, $27. So I've never made it because something happened, right? And I needed cash, or my wife needed 20, or my grandson needed this. And guess where I could go? To that box that has that cash sitting right there. So I'm really going to try to do it this year. I know we're in week 4. So 1 + 2 + 3 + 4, what is that? 7, 8, 10, whatever. So 11. So I just got to start it, and I got to do it, and then keep it going. And then a year from now, y'all can say, hey, James, how's that savings going? So now I said it out loud and on the public. So now you're going to hold me accountable. So guess what? Now I'm going to do it.
I'm going to hold you accountable for every week we have our regional meetings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you put that money in?
Yep. And not only that, I'm going to match you. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to commit to do the same thing.
Let's do it, sis. Let's do
All
it.
right.
Let's do it. All right.
That's great. Yeah, so goal setting is a really important part of this we've talked about. So that's great. And then James illustrating for us the power of when you do goal setting, if you make it public, it puts you in a different ballpark. And if you're doing the goal setting around something that you love, hey, even better. Let's see, Juliana, did you raise your hand, or was that okay?
Yeah, so back to goal setting, like from James. So actually, this is another personal thing. Every year since 2 years since I've been married almost, my husband and I make goals for our year. So we write them down on a piece of paper. So like for example, we both have our own goals on a piece of paper. And then like we write down, okay, what are we gonna do this year? Like things that are fun. So then we save for those things. So like for example, like we're gonna go on vacation in June. So we have to save for that. Or we like to go to our county fairs. So like I lived in Clark County, Ohio, and he's from Greene County. So we like to go to our county fairs. So we have to save for those and things like that. And we write down those things and then like everything else. But we really set like with goal setting, writing it down as well has really helped, at least me. And then I stick it, I have a I think they're called those like cork board things that you can stick them on. So we stick our paper on there and it's hanging in our kitchen so that we see it every day. So we're like, okay, we have to save for those things. Like we really have to like look at our goals. And so seeing those goals on there and writing them down, or like having a vision board for yourself too. Those are a really big thing right now, vision boards. Having those and seeing those really has helped with saving and setting those goals for ourselves each year. So that was just a little tidbit to add to that.
Thank you. That's great. Vision
Mhm.
boards, just really, yeah, powerful stuff. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Could we spend a little bit of time as we round up the hour? Something that I'm, as I'm going into work with communities and working with our partners and our fellow Ohioans, um, there's something people are asking me now that's even a new question that I didn't used to get back in the day. But that's the question of wealth building, right? And so we've already touched on this a little bit. And Amber, you already gave us like a really critical strategy, and your home is often your biggest asset. So get to that point. But I'd love to just throw it out there. What do you guys think? What are important strategies for wealth building that is, not just to help us, survive for the day, but how do we build something that helps the future generations, also succeed?
I can go. So really just I talked a little bit about this with my husband earlier actually. Decision making, like do I really need this? Like with your money, do you really saving that money, do I really need this? Utilize, and then we also talked about a little bit with like utilizing the percentage of, I don't know if I can't remember if Central State does this or not, but I know with his job, whatever percentage that he puts into his retirement, the company or the Air Force Base matches that percentage. So maybe like utilizing that percentage of what your company matches. I don't know if this is, with that, but just a little bit about that, with utilizing those percentages. I'm not sure if Central State does that or not. I don't remember. But that was just a little bit that we talked about when I was trying to figure out what to talk about on that. So yeah.
Yeah, so
But
maximizing whatever that match is,
yeah,
maximizing that, and
yeah,
make the commitment,
that
just
could
do it.
help a little bit with your retirement and building your retirement a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
James?
was going to mention, I know Amber said about home ownership, but I think it's very important about home ownership. My daughters both bought their homes before they were 30. So thank you, Amber, for saying that. And it's something that we've often talked about is using your asset to help you. So my in-laws bought their house 40 years ago, and they've been in the same 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and we lost our mother-in-law, and we ended up moving in with my father-in-law. So he's really telling us about, saving money and about using the home. It's going to be ours. Don't go out and buy another house, avoid debt kind of thing. And every time we're having a conversation, I mean, he has no debt. He has nothing. And he talks about, people that spend a whole lot of money on things that they don't need. And it's start to looking at your wants versus your needs. Really, once you want to build wealth, at some point, you're going to have to sacrifice, right? You're going to have to do something that you used to do, and maybe you cut it off at some point, just so that you can get that ball rolling. Sometimes it's inheritances. Sometimes it's, I often think about, I see the farmlands that great grandpa had, and then grandpa had, and then the son said, oh, I don't want to run a farm, or I don't know how to run a farm, I have no interest to run a farm. They sell it off, and now it's a big development, right? So they got a few dollars, but what could that have been potentially, from a wealth building mindset? But you go back to the mindset. I think the very first thing Renita said was about mindset. In order for someone to build wealth, they have to have the mindset of, I'm going to have this goal, set this goal, keep this goal in front of me, and really get after it. And don't let distractions come in and hold them back.
That's great. And I think Crystal's comment in the chat, thank you, Crystal, goes along right with that. Ideas I have for wealth are having multiple streams of income, having a budget, sticking to it, always paying yourself outside of any company match, take a financial investment course, learn to invest. Thank you for that, Crystal. Yeah, and we'll just open it up as we round out the hour. Any last thoughts on that, including from the audience?
Also, we had a previous segment on CED Office Hour Live with Miss Stevie Swain, and she talked about how to leverage both term life insurance as well as whole life insurance and the different uses of it and different ways you can leverage that to also build wealth. And build your kind of estate. So, and it was practical things that you can use on a smaller level. It wasn't like you had to start out with this $500,000 policy, right? And so I put the link in the chat so that you all can look at that episode. She was on here last month. So just want to refer to that. But I think we had some awesome comments, and as always, enjoy interacting and working with the FCS team, no matter, just no matter what we're working on. We always working on something. So one of the things that I have learned is that financially is not either financial or business side, right? It's both. And if you're incompetent on one, it's going to spill over to the other side. So you need to understand money as a whole. And Crystal put in here a great book that has helped her was the One-Page Financial Plan, A Simple Way to Be Smart About Your Money. The One-Page Financial Plan, A Simple Way to Be Smart About Your Money. And that's in the chat as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Crystal.
You're welcome. I hope you can hear me. You're welcome.
Yes.
And it's always good to hear you.
Oh, well, thank you. My camera's not working. I don't know why. I would have had my camera on. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Crystal.
Hey, this is Jody. I just wanted to say there's
yeah.
a lot of 4-H projects on financial planning and all kinds of things. So that's all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is there a link you can drop in the chat maybe, or how could we access those?
Well, that I would send to OSU and the National 4-H Council, and I probably don't have a list neat and tidy, but if you did to shop4h.org, I could put that in here. Let's see.
Okay, perfect.
Already did.
Did you put shop 4? Oh, okay, good. There we go. Just put shop 4-H in front of that. Put the word shop.
Shop.
Yeah. And if they go to curriculum to financial, there's and a lot of those books are peer reviewed across the country as well. So
well, welcome also as well, Dr. Gupta. Thank you for being here with us. And Ambrose, any final words to wrap us up?
Well, I just wanted to, thank the FCS team for joining us today, and just to just highlight for the community the importance and the value of the 4 program areas that we have, and our teams do work together on different projects and opportunities, and it is especially when we come together, that synergy is a tremendous value and resource for the community. So reach out to us, give us some opportunities to come out and bring our teams across the different program areas.
Thank you, Ambrose. And with that, we will conclude today's episode of CED Office Hour Live. And I just want to appreciate everyone for your contribution, and especially to our friends, FCS friends, James, Renita, Juliana. This has been truly delightful and insightful. Really grateful for that.
Dr. Gupta had a quick question.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Gupta.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm so proud of all of you to organize such a beautiful sync-in coordination. This is what we needed, right? So, I'm sure every one of you has such a great expertise, and the expertise is no longer valid until it is shared, right? So the sharing is in a very professional way is also very important. We can say what we want to say, but if the somebody has taken that sharing as in a practical application would be greatly appreciated by everyone. So I think that's you guys created such a beautiful, like Amber and Eric and Ambrose, you guys have a fantastic, way of some creative idea, I would say, So I would definitely will be as much as I can gather my time wise. I definitely will be joining in and, and then programs wise, anything that I can help you guys with, I would be willing to do that,
Yes.
and I can
We'll
see
be
that,
reaching out.
yes, you know what, seeing, I think it's a very, very, very first time I see everybody's teeth open. Otherwise, we'll be sitting like, right? Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I have noticed, I can take a picture of that because people will be sitting like this when this meeting is going to get over. But here I joined in, I think like it should have not ended, right? So, anyways, but my pleasure and my really great honor to have that, So it's really great opportunity to all of us.
Yeah, so and thank you for that, Dr. Gupta. And for those of you listening in, Dr. Gupta is going to be on, be one of our featured speakers to talk about mental health first aid, and just going to be really insightful. So really a specialist in this area. And so we don't know, we're figuring out what that's going to be, but it'll happen here in the next couple months. Also, I do want to say, really do please come back next week. James will be back. We'll also have some other FCS folks who will be talking about Get Your Thrive On, tips and for 2023 to become physically fit. So we'll talk about just being active. We'll talk about different health topics, nutrition, and it's going to be really, 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 informative, but informal and inviting as well. So please do come back next week. And with
We
that,
have
we'll wrap.
we have to smile because Dr. Gupta wants to take a group picture.
All
Yeah, hang
right.
on. And this can go to your, to Lena and for our promotional thing,
Yeah.
I'm going to send it to Miss Amber and Miss Amber
Okay.
can do what you want to do that. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And I like to, I mean, I hope you don't mind it because I like to address you all with Miss Amber or Mr. James. And I hope you don't mind it because this is how I like to do that because that makes me feel more professional. So if you don't, I always have said Miss Renita,
don't
remember?
mind.
I always wanted to say that because this is my honor to be connecting with you all, right? So thank you so much.
Likewise.
I
Likewise.
think so. It is a great honor for every one of you. Have a great time, guys. Great time, Have a rest of the weekend. And I want to admire Miss Renita. I love the way she has dressed today. Let's go have a round of applause for her hair. Don't you think she looks lovely?
She
But yes.
Did you ever say that to her?
Yes.
Did anybody say to her yet or not? If not,
Yes, I did.
time is now.
Good. Look at
With
that.
lovely hairdo and
She's
with
camera
nice,
shy.
expensive glasses, which I cannot afford. So
Well, we
Thank
learned that
you.
she saves
See,
for
life is all
rewards,
about
what she
laugh and
loves.
giggle. Life is all about laugh, so next person can laugh, and you can generate the laughter to others. That's called extension, right? Extension means extend your thing, your whatever you have, right? James always smiles, so there is nothing, no doubt about it. So this he has a frozen smile all the time. And Ambrose, no matter whatever is going on, man, the sweet tongue he tells, sweet tone, always. And Eric has also frozen face. Looks like somebody has said, okay, you freeze and smile, right? And Juliana, it's such a generous, it's like a, how should I say, gentle, like a sober, like a ice, snow, just like that, very serene. And Amber's, I like the way Amber talks, the classic voice, the classic verbiage she uses. It's a very, even in her emails, she writes a very specific, And Crystal, she's on and all everything. She's just like, see, the thing is that the art of the art of learning is that, appreciate, edify a characteristic of each and every individual of you. That's what extension is all about, because everybody has some talent, everybody has it, and we all do that, so enjoy rest of the day, rest of the evening, and weekend. No snow. All right, I would love to have be attended with you guys.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
I
Bye-bye.
think I got some mental health first aid right there. So, hey, thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.